It's Dark Elves Abridged Part 5, and last time we saw the consequences of us getting wrecked in that prior quest battle. Our expedition to the Elven Island was completely wiped out, so we went for a more standard campaign closer to home, taking on the zombie pirates and doing pretty well. However, the elves chased us home, and I gave myself the not particularly useful challenge of waiting for my bonus objectives to complete. Meaning we're currently just kind of standing around doing nothing, and I just got done taking out a random human invasion. While we stand around, I'm trying to avoid getting this Black Ark caught by one of the elven fleets that's chasing them around. We've also got trouble over here at Tlencan, which saw the human invasion before. There's a giant rebellion brewing there, and the humans are still around. But more worryingly, that big elven army up there is probably coming down to invade us. I've got an army moving to Pox Marsh and a big garrison there, while my main force is just waiting near the Awakening for the Hydra to be recruited down south. But in the meantime, we can do this little battle. They're recruiting an army outside of the town, and I can use Lightning Strike to quickly kill them. This way we don't have to allow this delay to cause the enemy to rebuild and then have to fight a big field battle or anything. We'll keep killing them as they rebuild their army, so that we still just have to face the siege once the time comes. As for this battle, well, not much happened. We had a gigantic advantage, as you can see on the balance bar. It just didn't look good on the campaign map, so I didn't auto-resolve it. Basically, we just ploughed into each other, and I sent Lockyer and our melee specialist to take out the enemy general. That goes successfully, and of course, with the vampires, that's going to screw them over heavily as the morale starts causing damage to everything. I think we were actually facing some unfavourable fights in that little skirmish, but by the end of it, it's all fine. We didn't lose any units, and we are just going to be standing here with this army for a couple more turns, so they'll replenish back up to full strength, and that's all fine. Lockyer hits the max rank of the superior attacker trait, so that favours attacking people, which is good because we're not fighting that many defensive battles in this campaign. But that of course is going to change with things like this, with the elves coming in to harass us, especially with that army led by the legendary lord. That's the elven main force, and we already know that their units are better than ours, so a full stack of elven stuff is going to be very worrying for a full stack of our stuff, suffice to say. Here I was just sort of peeking at it and realising that there are lots of special units in here, units that aren't just elven trash spears and archers, which are just about a match for our troops. It's better stuff, and we don't have that many options when it comes to recruiting stuff better than what we have. In fact, we don't have any options at all, thanks to our Black Ark getting taken out previously. So we're just going to have to go at them with spam. As for our currently alive Black Ark, I tried to tuck them in next to the Temple of Tlencan here. What I figured we could do is draw the pursuing fleet over, and then fight them using the garrison of Tlencan to take them down perhaps in an auto-resolve. I don't know if that's possible, and once they arrive in the next turn, I end up deciding it's not possible. After doing this, I sallied out with this one general and unit I've recruited here, and I thought this battle must involve the garrison because we're right next to the town. It doesn't, so I retreat from that, and basically looks like we're screwed here. I tried to get this general and unit back into the temple. For some reason, I couldn't do it, but what I could do is order her to land through the temple and then walk back in. Not sure why you have to do it like that. But anyway, we'll grab some more units. As for the Black Ark, well, this is going to be trouble now because we're kind of stuck in this broad bay-shaped area. One thing we can do, though, is try to run away as a distraction because I've just put those units into recruitment. If the enemy army chases my Black Ark, we will at least get extra units defending the temple. And indeed, that is what happens. The Black Ark runs away and they pursue. We get absolutely annihilated in this auto-resolve, of course. So that's another Black Ark sunk. I think that's our third one down. Doesn't actually matter that much. They're not very expensive to build. We can make another one. But it's just annoying because we lose the bonuses from having it around. And we could use that because, as you can see here, the enemy stack isn't actually going for Pox Marsh, as I thought they were. They're bringing everything over to that temple. So we're going to be severely outgunned, and then the rebellion that was building in the area attacks as well. This is a battle where I was seriously considering starting it and then just like withdrawing to force myself to lose, because that would cause the Skaven to take over. I was thinking maybe we can get the Skaven to fight the Elves in some way, because we'd only actually be losing a general and one unit. It's a case where even if we fight this battle and win, we still have to fight the Elves afterwards, so it doesn't actually matter. If you can't win both battles, there's no point even trying with the first one. But that said, I ended up going away and coming back another day, and I actually did try to fight this battle. with more optimistic hopes, thinking maybe we can actually win both. Let's not just give up right away. So here we are, we'll take a quick look at this fight. This army is absolutely packed with catapults, so it's a bit of an interesting build. However, in our garrison, we have a couple of units of cav, and they have vanguard deployment, meaning we can get away with not taking a massive amount of damage from the enemy's huge ranged advantage by immediately charging them as the fight starts from behind. They do turn the catapults around and they start getting some shots into the cav, but not enough to stop them, so in we go. We don't have enough cav to catch everything in melee and take them all out, but we can get like 2 or 3 units with each charge. And this is going to go a lot better than my attempts to take down those cannons the other time we were fighting the Skaven, because the cav units actually do take out artillery crews. They don't just keep firing and ignore you while you're fighting them. They die. That's more like it. That's what I wish had happened back in that quest battle. So now we can just run down the line, taking out all of the artillery, and then afterwards we'll have the cavalry to spare to use against things like the enemy's slingers. They could have sent some units back to protect their catapults and perhaps stop me from doing that, but they did focus on charging forwards in the end and attacking my units over by this tree line. We can just catch them in melee. I'm pretty sure we'll win the melees because we are facing Skaven trash here, which so far is just about the only thing that actually loses to our trash. And our crossbows are here and they're going to wipe out enemies nice and fast. Here we are a bit later. Looks like all the melee stuff is gone, and our crossbows are working their way through those enemy slingers. I think our cav actually got routed at the back somewhere while fighting against all the enemy catapults, but we did take out all the catapults, and we didn't lose any units, so our army's still in pretty good condition, perfect since we are expecting to be attacked again. Strangely, the Skaven are also in good condition. Not much stuff got deleted when I hit end battle. I could have pursued them, but there's some unclear rules in the Total War games about when if you press end battle it will just auto-resolve the remnants and give the enemy a whole ton of extra casualties, and sometimes it doesn't. I thought that would be a case where it did, but it didn't, so actually most of their stuff's still alive because I just ended the battle after only a third of their army had routed. Some good news though, back at home we have got the building for the Hydra, I've got a general, and there we go. So it's now 3 turns until our official don't attack any other settlements rule will end, and we'll have done all the bonus objectives. In the meantime though, we're going to be losing a settlement according to this elven army. The balance bar says this fight is somewhere between impossible and hard. However, I am going to try and take this on because I had a couple of plays in mind to try and deal with this situation. The main thing I want to do is not fight all of the enemy at once. You can see they've got this huge horde of archers coming right at us, and what I plan to do is have a unit of cav on each side of the field, just run about and try to get behind their army. Meanwhile, everything else is currently in a hidden position just in front of where the enemy are. So the idea is the AI will see the cav and prioritize them, thinking, well, that's most of the stuff I can see now, and start splitting their army up into different groups to go after the cav, and we can lead them about. Strangely, this doesn't work at all. It works in 3 Kingdoms, which presumably was developed later in terms of the AI, but in this game, they react to it perfectly. They send 1 unit of anti-cav stuff after each one of my cav units, meaning they can now effectively just ignore the stuff I'm doing behind their lines, and come right at us with dragons, elite archers, a phoenix made of ice or something. I don't know what's going on with these guys, but we're probably in trouble. However, I do have my second idea, and that is to just stay in the forest, because the forest gives you a ranged defense advantage. I can't remember if it was implemented in this game or in 3 Kingdoms. At some point they made it so if you're standing in trees, it's not just the trees blocking shots that makes you more strong against ranged attacks, but you also get a buff on your units that increases their missile block chance. Looks like their cav rammed right into my spear line, which was good. However, it did just kill them because their cav's good and my spears are bad, and there's no charge reflection. There's a 3 Kingdoms mechanic we could use right now. As for everything else, well, the plan's sort of happening in that we're staying in the trees and using my crossbows to shoot out. But the major problem with this operation is that the enemy's ranged units don't need to be involved for the enemy to kill me here. Even if we're not dying to their arrows, we're going to die when they come in with all this great axe infantry, more cav, overall good stuff. They've got a couple of basic units of spears, albeit with tons of level ups, and maybe they are a match for our infantry. Everything else is going to be much better. And of course that's going to cause some issues. You can see the balance bars looking pretty bad, and really our frontline units just die whether or not the enemy archers are shooting them. And it doesn't help at all that they have a high level legendary lord on a dragon just marauding around one-shotting my units easily. So yes, this battle is actually very short and very disastrous for us. You can see some of my archers routed out the back of the forest, but when they came back, they ended up trapped up against the line of death, just getting hacked apart by the enemy's cav. Not happening for us. That's a decisive defeat. It actually went much worse than I expected, even after my 2 ideas failed, because I thought we had some strength on the balance bar, we might kill some enemies. We didn't. Look at those results. We barely did anything to them, and the most worrying thing is that army we just fought them with is stronger than our main force. It's pretty much the same thing, but with more numbers what we had just there. So the question is now arising, can we actually do anything to stop that army? Will it just kill our entire faction over time? And to make things worse, here comes another one. So they've now got roughly 2 stacks worth of troops, and they are really focusing on us. This campaign is not going at all like I wanted it to. We're not going to get to go on any more seafaring adventures and just go do some piracy and be annoying. From now on, it's survival horror. We're facing a much stronger enemy who also have numbers on their side. Not good. We have the defender's advantage, but in Total War, fighting defensively is pointless because it doesn't advance the game in any way, and the enemy just gradually gets stronger. So I don't really know where we're going with this campaign, but we're going to find out. We'll try and survive. Here's an easy one. Near Poxmarsh, there were some vampire rebels. So we killed those guys. There we go, a victory. Doesn't make us any progress, but it slows our back progress. And perhaps more importantly, we pick up some cash and experience, which is actually useful. And we're going to get some more cash here actually, because I'm going to move away from Poxmarsh, because we're now just a couple of turns away from being able to attack the Awakening, and because the Elves are a couple of turns away from being here, we can focus everything on the attack right now. To start things off, we need to take out this army outside the town, just like the battle earlier. They've got some guys hanging around who we can lightning strike to fight on their own. The balance bar's looking nice and bad for us. And after that last fight as well, I'm really getting frustrated at how weak we are. I'm just like, how come we don't have any chance against these guys? Can't we just auto-resolve this half stack with our leveled up experience full stack? No, we can't is the answer. In this fight, they were sitting on a hill, so I decided to try out Lockhere's dragon's ability. He can breathe some sort of poison thing. The thing is, it doesn't work very well, or at all in this case. So I go up to the enemy, click to do the poison attack, but it just sits there. It did use it up. You can only use it 3 times, and it went down to 2, and it had a cooldown. But nothing actually happened, as we can see. In fact, the only thing that did happen is we lost a load of health getting shot by the enemy while I just sat there waiting to see if anything was going to happen. So that was good. Maybe that attack can be cancelled or something if you get hit while you're charging it up. Not sure. If anyone happens to know, do let me know. As for the strategy now, I brought up the bolt thrower to make the enemy come down off this hill. The hill is so long that actually, even as they come down to where we are, they're still going to be slightly uphill from us. Not sure what advantage being on the hill actually gives you in this game, but it did say in a loading screen that it gives you a significant melee advantage to be uphill. Not sure what that means, but who knows. Anyway, here we are with the enemy a bit closer. We skirmish back with our archers, not wanting to get charged by the crabs. That just means the melee troops will get charged by the crabs as well. The spears do have a bonus against them. It looks like they are being debuffed by enemy magic, which is a bit nasty. At least the archers will now be behind the lines, shooting over the top at the relatively large crabs. On the right there, I've pinned some of the crabs down, and I'm having Lockheer and some archers trying to kill them. That's about it for my strategy, since in terms of micro, I can only pull off one thing at a time overall, so after setting that up, everything else in the middle is just whatever the AI happened to set up for me. This fight may or may not be good, and it actually turns out to be good. Because of the archers behind the line, as I mentioned, they actually take out these crabs quite fast, and that balance bar goes from being even to being quite heavily in our favour once the crabs are dealt with. Most of their power was in those units, I suppose. Caught some of my Corsairs, losing decisively to the enemy's zombie gunners in melee. We're getting to the point when we have to admit these Corsairs actually legitimately suck. I think that answers my question from earlier about why we're always so weak all the time. With our faction and our legendary lord and even our victory objectives being focused around the recruitment of Black Ark Corsairs, the fact that they're actually terrible is not helping us out very much. We can't even make bleak swords instead, we have to use them as our main melee unit, although we do have dread spears, which I suppose I'll be focusing on more as we go forward. I eventually got that poison breath attack to work, annihilating those zombie gunners and killing half of the Black Ark Corsairs in there as well. I think they might have actually died, the zombies that is, due to the enemy running out of morale at the same time, because their commander also died, and that is that. Luckily, no units lost. Most of the damage we took was on Lockyer, in fact, so he'll have to heal up a bit and be careful in future battles. We are going to get a chance to replenish before we go on to attack the Awakening itself, but we can't replenish very much in enemy territory without our Black Arks around. It's a surprise we can replenish at all. The raiding stance seems to be pretty handy for that, and of course we're making a ton of cash. The second Elven army is still on the way down, but some nice news is that the one that was chasing my Black Ark earlier is going back north. So there we go. We've still got a worse situation than we had before because the new one is bigger than the old one, but it could be worse. And I think the reason behind that is this thing over here. Looks like Lothern are now at war with someone else, so maybe that other army got assigned to that project in the AI's system. As for Tlencan, well, trouble, because that Skaven rebellion from earlier is back and stronger than ever, and our garrison cannot say the same. So there we go, we lose the place to the Skaven. Handy because maybe they'll end up fighting the Elves, but I think they don't. We lose line of sight over this end turn sequence, but I'm pretty sure the Elves just come straight for us after this. In the meantime, we need to stack up at the Awakening and see what we can do. We can attack right now, but the balance bar is very poor, mainly because my second army isn't in reinforcement range there because I messed it up. The enemy army is actually pretty good. They've got a ton of those depth guard who are decent against all of our stuff, as we've seen before. Needed to move this army into reinforcement range to stop the enemy from having an easy sally. That was harder than I thought though, because they've actually got an agent standing just in front of me, meaning I can't walk to the edge of my movement range this turn. Messed around with this for a while. Can't remember if I actually did get close enough, but basically they didn't sally, so it was fine. And here in the next turn, I realised something that I should have realised earlier. While we're sitting around, we could have had a Black Ark sitting just off the coast, because I can just make another one at Fuming Serpent. They're not that expensive, as previously mentioned. And in fact, if I recruit a Black Ark with the same name as the last one, it's kind of the same guy, and when you get the same Admiral, you get the same arc, including the stuff. That is to say, the arc that got destroyed earlier is now inexplicably back, as I discover in the next turn, actually realizing, wait a minute, this is a max level arc with all the buildings from earlier, so all of a sudden we're kind of back in this. We now have the ability to recruit our end game units again from this thing. So we'll bring it in to support, and if it can stay alive a bit longer, we can use that to actually start upgrading our Black Ark Corsairs into better things. I seem to remember we've got some Executioner Greatsword units we can recruit, and I'm going to get the high level archer building in there as well. As for this situation right now, it's time to attack. The Elves already on the way, so it'd be good to get this over and done with before they show up with their latest stomp. As for the battle, well, it could be a difficult one. We've got a lot of stuff available here, but the enemy stuff is better, so it's only balanced. And of course they have the wall on their side. We don't have any siege towers, just one ram made during the siege. So it is going to be a case of running at the wall and trying to get up there while getting shot by the towers, to start with at least. This little group needs to get moving. My micro's not good enough. I think I microed the stuff on the other side of the map first. But in we go. We're going to charge up the two edges of the map as usual. In the middle, well, don't really know what I was doing there. The archers were deployed in the center, but they're just going to get shot, and I didn't want to attack with just the archers, so I ran them back into some trees to try and hide them. My reinforcement army is coming in over on the right side of the map, so they need to get running towards the enemy as well. There were some depth guard defending the left-hand side of the wall there. However, by the time my men actually climb up, they had walked off somewhere else, so we're able to actually get men up onto the wall uncontested, several units in fact. That's nice, a good start. Elsewhere, we're getting a bit contested by some zombie gunners. We saw in the previous battle that is actually a problem for our terrible Corsairs, but in this case they seem to do better. We do take the gunners down, I guess because they didn't get some volleys off into us first as we charged them. Maybe things are okay. Bit of a stutter there, and that's because I paused the game to spam all of the Black Ark abilities at once. At this stage in the campaign I started thinking I am going to have to actually issue orders while pausing, because the micro is out of this world. A few more battles in the future actually. I'm going to be grabbing a submod that in theory slows combat down, although it actually didn't. Well, I'll talk about that when we get to it. Basically, I'm going to try and improve my micro by using the tools available in the game, which is a very outrageous move. As for our attacks so far, well, we've got some bad stuff going on. Our general, Lockyer, is being attacked by some Depth Guard polearms, the thing that's explicitly strong against him, and he's nearly dead, so he needs to now get out of there. The issue is, by getting out of there in that direction, he's also going to get shot by towers, so I really need to keep an eye on that. Elsewhere along the wall, things are going alright. We have sheer numbers on our side in this battle, so even though some of these fights aren't very good for us, we can just keep spamming in more Corsairs until eventually the job gets done. These ghosts have resistance against our attacks, but they're also quite bad, so they don't really kill us, and the ghosts do gradually take damage. I'm guessing they have low stats, so they have a lot of chances to take damage, even if it's like 90% reduced because of their ghostliness, whatever the deal is with that. Overall then, we are actually getting up and capturing this wall, and because a lot of their units aren't on the wall, they can't participate very much in the fight, meaning while they have strength on the balance bar, a lot of their stuff isn't fighting. This unit of gunners is sniping away at my Manticore, precisely the sort of thing that could be avoided if I was microing more and had the Manticore actually doing something or was paying attention. In the past, I've tried playing battles entirely in slow motion. That makes it much easier, especially in fights like this where there's stuff all over the place and we have 40 units to command. So maybe I'll get into doing that a bit more as well. I try to avoid it to make things harder, because if you have perfect micro, you kind of take away the thing that the AI has on you. Like, you're supposed to have better strategy, but it has better micro. Anyway, we'll see. Just mentioning this here because as for this fight, there's not much else to say. We're up on the wall, we're killing. Eventually, we've killed everything. There's then an extra fight because we have to fight all the stuff that couldn't get up to the walls, like these crabs here. Actually, not all the stuff, because they left a few units back on the capture point, meaning we could focus down these particular crabs, hitting them with spears, crossbows, and the Manticore, and while they're wrecking the guys they're in melee with. Overall, that's going to be enough to take them down, especially because their morale is going to disappear and they'll start taking damage from that as well. Looks like Lockyer nearly died due to me not microing enough. I realised he was getting shot by a tower that hadn't been completely captured. Luckily, he just about survives. Then we go on towards the capture point. Some of the stuff that was there had actually died of crumbling damage by the time we arrived. Then the crabs charged out at us, but they then also died of crumbling damage after that. And boom, we won the last bit of the fight without much effort. A close victory, but no units lost, and that's what we like to hear, so it could be a free victory if we have time to replenish before the next fight. As for what we do with the town, well, I wanted to take it, but look at that sack, 60 grand. We could do a lot with 60 grand, including upkeep an army of higher tier units that we otherwise can't afford, which is what we'll need if we want to actually make any use of that Black Ark's high level recruitment abilities. With that in mind, I thought, well, we have to take this sack, but I also want to take it, so it's time to pull out the top level secret exploits. That's not really an exploit, but the AI doesn't really do this. You sack the settlement, and then army number 2 also attacks the settlement. There's now nothing here, and we can just occupy it, so we've effectively crafted an extra option there, sack and occupy. It also means our weaker army has to waste its turn sitting in the town, and the stronger army can move about a bit, go into raiding stance to get more replenishment, things like that. Our victory means the Awakened are gone, and we now have all 3 of the faction targets destroyed for a short campaign victory. For a long campaign, we need to take out the Elves as well, so I guess we've started towards that by being at war with them. But that's not going all that well, I must say, and here they come really. It's time for their onslaught. Their smaller army attacks Pox Marsh, and even the smaller army apparently is going to be very difficult for us to take down. I was here admiring some of their special units. They've got magic archers, they've got a couple of phoenixes in there, and they outrange us with their artillery. All good stuff, and of course it's only going to get worse, not only when their other stack starts getting involved, but they've got some more stuff they're going to throw into this fight as well, as we'll see. So join me for more Desperate Survival in part 6.